Hi, so I'm Tonam
And I'm Amara, and welcome to our project Synthesizer.
with a C. Yeah, so our project is a synthesizer combined with cymatics.
So I was interested in visualizing sound, and Tonam was interested in creating
A synthesizer, and for the last project of the last unit, I wanted to make something related to that, so I learned of Mossy, and I didn't have time, so I wanted to work on a synthesizer using Mossy.
And here we go, you've got the dream collaboration. So these were our initial ideas. When I first heard we had to do this project, I was interested in a harmonograph and fractals and how to make these like ever-evolving shapes. And then I wanted to work with Tonam.
Yeah, and I was looking at Omnichord, and I just want something that I can use to make an ambience machine, because I work a lot with videos, but I never know what audio to put in, so I feel like if I make like a thing that just makes some noises that I can use like for anything, then that's nice. And then visualizing the sound with a synthesizer sounds like a really like nice combination.
And then, so we were interested in, when we came to making a cymatics machine or plate, we were interested in like the different materials we could use, such as like water, sand or salt, or like if there was a way of making like a projection, like you could use the air as a medium to show these effects.
Yeah, and then there's also the glucose one. So there's many things that you can use to make cymatics patterns. And we were talking about the final setup as well, where we had like a not like a fight, but we were like,
we had very different opinion, like we both have a very different aesthetic, I guess.
Yeah.
And I would say my aesthetic is more like clean and minimalist.
And I like messy but organized messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like raw materials in like a really minimal and like organized way.
Yeah, like I think the left is definitely me and the right pictures sum us up pretty well together of our designs.
Yeah. So we had this thing where like we have jump into Miro. Like we use Miro to communicate our research together.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when designing the aesthetic, we like made mood boards and then we put it on Miro, and we were like talking about like, okay, so like we could actually combine like what we both have as a vision, and Miro. Shout out to Miro. It's also where we put our calendar and we plan each day and we write what we have done each day and what we have to do the next day.
Mm-hmm. And then so this was some of my initial ideas. I was thinking like maybe like a pillar made out of concrete or something, and then just having the plate on display with all the everything else like hidden within it, or alternatively like a box that you could slide open, and then the synthesizer and the touch screen could be there, and then when you closed it, there would just be like a box with the synthesizer. But then Tonam made this amazing mock-up.
Blender render.
Yeah, a blender render. Of her designs and her aesthetic. So yeah, these are them. Making and coding process.
So I started off by familiarizing myself with the Mossy library, I read through the library examples, but since this is my first time coding Arduino on my own, I didn't really understand right away, so I started this project by just running through the example codes of the Mossy. So as you can maybe see, the volume was really low, so I went into CCI campus and asked Matt about it, and he gave me this amplifier for me to solder.
So for the Clavny plate, we managed to find a good speaker from CCI that already had pre-cut holes. So we used these holes to add threaded rods in, so that we could then attach acrylic to make sure that there was stability holding in the Clavny plate in place well, so that it doesn't rattle around too much when the sound comes out. Also, I had to 3D print a end cap. So that again adds stability, and it can fully vibrate off of the speaker's circle that vibrates the sound.
And so from that, we had a joint experiment to test that the amplifier actually works. So we tried with salt and
water, and we used a pencil tub, a metal pencil tub to hold the water to see if the idea of using water and sand would work separately as two different components.
Yeah, and we also cut like canvas fabric and put salt on it to see if it would vibrate or not.
Yeah,
and
it did work. But unfortunately, as I was discussing with Chris from CCI, he was saying that there's a massive risk with health and safety if we use water, so we decided not to use water as it was just too big of a health and safety risk.
Yes. Then I booked a workshop in LCC, so we can both went into the 3D workshop and work together. But unfortunately,
I wasn't allowed into LCC, and they kicked me out, saying I wasn't even allowed to walk into the workshop because I'm from CSM.
So we were thinking that since I was the one who was interested in synthesizer and Amara's the one who's interested in semantics, so we decided that we're gonna from now kind of went on our a bit own ways to
create it. Like we both helped, like if help was needed on either way. But yeah, I decided to go for mostly like the making of the cymatics machine, and Tona mostly took the coding aspect.
Yes, so I went on a deep rabbit hole journey. So I met up with this guy Joel, who's a mutual friend, and he DJs with synthesizers, and he taught me a lot about how synthesizers work, the different parts in the synthesizers, what each potentiometer does, how it affects, and how you would potentially mix a song from the synthesizers. So he have two main synthesizer machines, and he showed me like both of them, but we ended up with the easiest one and the one he used the most, which is the keyboard one. And I tried asking him to play something for me, and this is what he did. But then I also asked him about the sequence synthesizer, because there's an example that I saw on YouTube of this guy who uses Mossy to make, and basically he have like this sequence already recorded, and as you play the sequence you adjust the sounds. And so he also like played something like that for me as well to see what the difference would be.
In case you decide to go down that route.
Okay.
It was a really helpful talk in general, and he also helped me plot out that with the amounts of potentiometers, the digital pins, the analog pins that I have, like he helped me plot out that my options of what I can do and use and give in my and put in my synthesizers. So now the coding part, the fun part. So basically, to wrap this up, because this video is going more than 10 minutes now, I spent like a week reading and running through the examples and stuff, and then searching around on existing projects of people that work with Mossy and like looking at their code. There's like this guy who does a lot about on Mossy, and he also did like the MPR 1-to-1 Adafruit touch sensors with the keyboard. But for some reason, yeah, he didn't combine the projects, and I learned that the hard way because I spent like 2 days doing the capacitive touch and making it work as a keyboard. It was like, you know, like it's just a pin, like a digital pin, and you get like 12 touch points, which is an octave. Spent like days researching the frequency for each of the notes. I found out that the two most useful examples of Mossy is the knob light level ×2 FM synth, also the knob LDR ×2 wave packet. I was trying to change the wave with the buttons. I think I realized that it didn't run through. Like, I thought that my code was right, but then looking back, it doesn't really. At one point, it did work. And
Wave table swap.
then it didn't really work. But yeah, and I made this thing with frequency, modulation rate, bandwidth, so cutoff, and also resonant, and I got the 4 potentiometers working, and it did work, but like the frequency is supposed to be changed out to the touch. So yeah, it was a week of me looking at the examples and how to join, try to figure out a way to join. I went on campus and booked a tutorial with Levin, and he told me that I need to go back to looking at like the basics of a buttons and how it works and stuff. So then the week after that, I spent like the whole week just at home coding. That's when I got the 4 potentiometers working. And then I spent, as mentioned, the 2 days doing the capacitive touch. and I think on Thursday where I tried to join them, it didn't work. Friday, I spent like the day trying to find out what's wrong. Like, I actually look at it a lot and ask ChatGPT even, and basically the wire library, which I think is a built-in in Arduino IDE. So there's a function called twee_init, and Mossy also have that function. Thing is, like, they write like there's a word difference, and so when you run it, it clashes. And even if I go into the library and comment out the twee_init function in the Mossy main library, it doesn't process and load, and it's a whole thing. And then Matt found like other people are also like complaining and talking about this, and in the end everyone's conclusion is that you just can't use it together. So now I changed and I did a button instead.
Yeah, so this is your inverting everyone.
Also, I realized that I can just plug this into my speaker and it's a bit more predictable, because that keeps being broken or something. But yeah. And luckily there were like 11 pins of buttons, so almost an octave, because the 9 is for the output of the audio to the amplifier. Yeah, so I got the whole octave of the button pins working, which is nice. And then I tried now to join that to the Mossy sound system. And I found this control oscill wash, which if you run it, it produces really nice ambient sounds. And I was looking at the code, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but it seems like I could control this, and this is only 8 pins. So technically, because I only even have like 11 space and an octave is 12, so maybe I just use this instead. But I'll run it. I tried editing something and it's a bit weird, but let's see. And now it's not like a keyboard, it's just like different sounds. It's really nice because the sounds are so different that like it's the volume times the frequency for the oscillator example thing, but it works really nicely and I was really pleased with it. And so like after getting all that done, I now like try to code in the ADSR is the first thing. I didn't code in the bandwidth and resonance yet, but I code in the ADSR rate, and the sounds turns really weird. I like the sounds, but it wouldn't work with the cymatics, so I think that's for me to explore further down after this course. And yeah, I decided to just, you know what, cut down, just have the 8 buttons. It works with the cymatics, with the deadlines coming. If I want to develop it, I develop it further, and I just soldered the 4 potentiometers anyways into the box so that in the future when I complete my code, I can just run it through and everything is there for me to use. So I'm really excited. It turned out really nicely, and now it's just fun time experimenting, good times. And so now the fun part of making the box, I designed it, I went into LCC, laser cut it. I was gonna solder it first and then design the box later, but then I talked with Pete and he was like, yeah, you need the design of the box first so you know like the size of your wires and everything. So yeah, I designed the box, I made the box, I popped up right after from LCC to Camberwell. Amara to finish the soldering. I come home. So this is the day before submissions. I just made the box, did the soldering with the wire. I just need to now connect these boards, and yeah, Amara took the speaker home, so I haven't tested it out yet whether this works, but I'm gonna go home and test out if it works, and hopefully it works and it'll be nice. Also, shout out to all the technicians. I realize now that with coding you have to approach it with a chill mindset. Like, I had a problem, I asked Agnes about it, and she was like, ooh, why is it acting like this? This is interesting. Ooh, let's see. What if I do this? Oh, this happens. Oh, that's so weird. And I'm like, oh, because normally I just stress out. I'm like, I did what I supposed to do. Should work. Why is it not working? And I realized that, oh, if I think like, oh, that's interesting. Like, that's a really good, like, this make it fun. Like, it is now fun. And also, like, with math as well, I learned that, like, not everything I do have to be, like, perfect on the first time. Like, it doesn't have to, like, run. Like, I'd be, like, doing my soldering on, like, these potentiometers, and, like, it doesn't, like, the knot doesn't come through. Like, there's no knot for this to connect it. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, like, you just need to change it. And, like, we soldered it. And I'm like, ooh. And I mean, like, it's fun. Like, I like soldering. So, like, why am I stressed out on, like, why do I have to redo this? Like, it's actually fun. Like, if not without the time restraint of, like, this deadline, it's, like, chilling. Like, oh, yeah, like, I just need to redo this. Like, yeah, like, take life slow and no rush, you know? Why is my button not working? But yeah, I booked a last-minute tutorial with Matt 3 hours before the deadline. I asked him that, button 1 seems to be pressed all the time, and button 2 works, but then I removed button 1, and then button 2 seems to be pressed all the time, and button 7 sometimes works. He said I have to check it with the meter thingy, and yeah, I mean, for now we got what we needed. We just need to tweak some bits here and there, and now make sure that the sounds actually is compatible with the Schlatney plates. And yeah, the final video is a collage of all this process, all the sounds together. Thank you.